it's just interesting. I was just wondering how many lies do you actually need to be layered on top of one another before you buy a watch? Well, it can be made in Asia as long as it says Swiss made. Because if it says Swiss made, I don't think about the fact that it's made by robots in China. It's like, so you're creating these lies for yourself to justify a product that you don't want or need. To say that, oh well, at least it's made by an old man with a white beard next to a candle, somewhere in Switzerland, because it says Swiss made on my, $3,000 watch or $5,000 watch. No, I'm not saying that that's a low amount of money. What I'm saying is that it is a large amount of money to pay for something that was made largely by robots and probably somewhere far, far away from the shoes.
Greetings and welcome to this week's aBlogtoWatch Weekly. Maybe we are weeping. Maybe we're just weeping at the demise of the watch industry. I don't know. Is anybody weeping? Anybody crying over the watch industry this week? Anything to cry about, David?
No. Let's just call it aBlogtoWatch Ripley and then be done with it.
aBlogtoWatch Ripley. Well, Ripley sellers, how are you? How is your wall?
I'm well. Wall as well. Good to be back with the wall. Just got back from New York yesterday. Nothing watch related, but I am now back here, so I now have this behind me again.
And why is Brightman repping for Gerald Charles in a very nice fetching baseball cap?
It's a great hat, great watches, great hat. And they were kind enough to give me this hat last year in Geneva, so
hat will wear.
Yes.
Excellent. Ariel, what's your favourite bit of watch brand swag you've ever been given?
I love jackets. So for me, anytime they give me a cool jacket, I'm very happy. I'll gladly wear a cool jacket if it has a watch brand name on it. You can send it to me if I like it. I will plaster your logo everywhere I go. I just happen to like jackets, and so a lot of them, I'll plug one. Bulova, they just had these jackets made. They give them as gifts, but it wasn't just like giveaway material jacket. It was like an actual jacket that would have been worn by like a pit crew. Like it's a company that makes like work clothing and then they put their logo on it. And it was like, I would never buy that, but that'd be cool to wear that. So thank you, watch brands, for growing my jacket
clothing
wardrobe.
Ariel.
Yes, head to toe watch brand. My socks.
Keeping him warm and dry.
I mean, we haven't been making everything.
We need more
There's
pants.
Pants have never been given.
We have so
underwear.
many shirts, so many hats. I don't normally wear hats, so I figure the podcast seems like a great time to rotate them through. But I would love to one day dress myself solely in swag, and we need more pants. There are not enough pants.
Now, can we just be clear for the European audiences that what you mean by pants is trousers? Or do you actually mean pants, which is underwear?
Rick, is that what you mean by pants?
Pants is definitely not trousers. Pants is pants.
Well, if you wear pants under your trousers, we're going to need both.
Well, hold on a second. What are you suggesting? That watch bloggers go commando? Is that what we're talking about?
I'm suggesting brands make a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. So the question is, right, okay, so here's the challenge. It's June. Do we think that we can gather enough swag from various watch brands to dress a single human being in everything required, from shoes right up to hats? Okay, so watch brands, if you're listening, it needs to have your logo on it. It's not just send us a pair of shoes, any random shoes.
Do you remember?
Have your logo on it.
Do you remember a couple of years ago the April Fool's post was that Patek Philippe stores stopped selling watches and just sell like suits and ties and stuff like that? I think that Breitling, Tag Heuer, a few others, I think they could totally have a full line of clothing that would go with their brand. It wouldn't just be ones that celebrate their watches. They could have a full on, like, these are the clothing that represent this brand. Hell, Audemars Piguet could do it. I mean, Louis Vuitton does do it, and it makes sense. So I think watch
Louis
brands
Vuitton want to send us a whole load of stuff. That's fine.
Oh, you want them to send it to us? I was giving them a business idea to make. Well, we would prefer free. Yeah,
I want one of us to be able to be dressed fully from head to clothes. I vote Ripley for those Philipp Plein shoes. I think that's the way to go.
Oh yeah, Plein guy.
Plein man.
Crypto no king over here.
Well, that's a challenge for watch brands. If you're listening, start getting in touch with the item of clothing you think that you can put on one of us, and we'll try by Christmas. It'll be like our Santa Claus. You'll go around fully dressed as watch brand man.
So we need this
Ultimate
just before
shell.
Halloween, right? Because we'll dress this way for Halloween. So brands get to bid on, we will wear their attire. It just has to look cool and meant for us. Like David, what's going to look good on him? Is it going to look good on Rick or me? So each of us needs an attire for us, and
Halloween
it's okay.
Challenge. Okay, so we've now got to go off hunting for brands that will send us stuff. So that for Halloween Challenge, we'll count up who's wearing the most items from brands, and you get extra points if there's more stuff from the same brand. If it turns out you can actually dress fully in one brand, you win. So, gentlemen, start your engines. Away you go. So there we go. That was a little detour. Well, we should include micro brands, because micro brands are capable of going out and like producing low run stuff just for the sake of it.
Socks.
Socks. So we need some sock manufacturers for watches. The question is, Ariel, to try and bring us back somewhat to the topic of actual watches. Would any of these items actually be Swiss made? You have an article this week.
If they were made in Switzerland,
Look at that link. Ariel's thoughts: are today's Swiss made watches a sign of protectionism or prestige? Would our Swiss made underpants be a sign of protectionism or of prestige?
Well, the article is not actually about pants, under or otherwise. It sort of riffs off of the article that David wrote a couple of weeks ago about how when he sees Swiss made, he basically wants it to be like an ironclad promise, like this is Swiss made. And I take the conversation about Swiss made in a different direction, and I ask myself, what is Switzerland actually trying to accomplish with this? So often we go to these manufacturers and they're so proud of the high-paying jobs and all the amazing benefits they have all the time, yet they want to sell in countries that are not comparatively as nice to their workers. And I'm just wondering how tone-deaf it's starting to become, where the Swiss sort of show this quaint lifestyle that these workers in rural Switzerland get to enjoy, when a lot of the people that buy their watches don't even have as nice jobs and things like that in a lot of ways. And so I asked the question, is Swiss made a sign of prestige, meaning you're getting a really good product, which is better than others? Or is it just a signal of protectionism, where Switzerland is just making sure that it takes care of itself and its people and its neighbors, but everyone else is sort of obligated to send money over there? And that's what the discussion is.
Yeah, I was thinking about it through the week about Swiss made and what it actually means to me, and whether I give two hoots. And I think, in the honest cold light of day, I don't think I care that it says Swiss made, but I would care if it said something else. If it said more to the truth, then probably I'd have to honestly say, if it said made in Vietnam, Malaysia, I actually probably would care. And I know that's probably really bad and get me cancelled or something, but I'd probably don't care that it says Swiss made, but would care if it told the truth, because at the moment it feels like being made somewhere that is known for mass manufacturing, and I think that's the issue. If it said made in China, you think, well, it's a place of mass manufacture, so it's made by robots in China. Whereas if it says Swiss made or says nothing, you think, oh yeah, it's made by artisans up in the high mountains, just above the snow line. There's the sound of cowbells in the distance and double espressos being coiffured in the morning before 2 hours hard work at the workbench.
So the idea that a person is doing it as opposed to some type of industrial compound.
Well, what about the Swiss robots? Tudor made that whole video like a year or two ago in which they anthropomorphized that robot that helps out at its new factory. I don't know if China's anthropomorphized its industrialized robots, and maybe even on the robotic level, Switzerland's trying to put in that je ne sais quoi, that human touch, if you will, to the point where its robot has a name as it assists the well-paid Swiss workers at the factory.
That's a good point, which is that the reason why I don't want it to have the stamp of a heavily industrialized countries because it feels even more ridiculous paying $10,000 for something that was made with no human intervention whatsoever, apart from setting up the program. But that actually, what the Swiss would really like to do is heavily industrialize as much as possible because it's so much cheaper. The reason they ship this out to places with all this heavy industry, the ability to mechanize like that, is because the margins are so much better. But you're right, Ripley, they kind of need to keep the amount of industrialization they do in some of these places a bit secret. Otherwise it ruins the allure, which is Swissness, which is it's touched by the hands of a descendant from Gerald Genta himself or whatever it might be. So yeah, I wonder if there is an element of keeping hidden what's actually going on in Switzerland, as well as the fact of what's actually going on in China, Malaysia, Indonesia, wherever these things, Hong Kong, wherever these things are going. David?
It's just interesting. I was just wondering, how many lies do you actually need to be layered on top of one another before you buy a watch? Well, it can be made in Asia as long as it says Swiss made, because if it says Swiss made, I don't think about the fact that it's made by robots in China. It's like, so you're creating these lies for yourself to justify a product that you don't want or need, to say that, oh well, at least it's made by a old man with a white beard next to a candle, somewhere in Switzerland, because it says Swiss made on my, $3,000 watch or $5,000 watch. I'm not saying that that's a low amount of money. What I'm saying is that it is a large amount of money to pay for something that was made largely by robots and probably somewhere far, far away from the shoes fall.
And is this the essential problem of the luxury industry, which is it's completely unnecessary? So the only way to persuade people to buy something that's completely unnecessary is actually to build some sort of fiction as to why this is necessary.
There used to be this added layer of value and craftsmanship, and now they've been slowly, well, not so slowly, extracting it from it and trying to see how far they can take this extraction of actual craftsmanship and actual value while increasing the price. And basically one of my points was
was there though, David? What is that another fiction we've told ourselves, that back in the 60s it was so much more craftsmanship and people in long white beards? Or has it always been thus, that the industry has just tried to remove people as quickly as possible from actually having to handle these things?
Still largely Switzerland, and I wouldn't go back to like 60s. I'm talking about 90s.
Okay.
So you don't have to go back half a century. It's enough to go back 30 years to see a difference in how certain big brand watches were made. And if you look at the actual quality and the actual attention to detail and refinement, it's quite shocking sometimes.
I think Switzerland has probably an obligation because of this and a lot of other conversations like that to reestablish what Swiss made needs to mean. They need to do the thing they hate most, which is agree upon a message and actually share it. As we said, there is about 360 companies, not that many, that Swiss made applies to them. And one of the things I wrote in the article, which I think was very interesting, is that some companies go out of their way to tell us how they're way more than Swiss made, because it's like Swiss made isn't enough. They have to be like, oh, Swiss made plus. And there's a lot of brands that are Swiss made plus. And we've laughed about that and we've talked about that. But, when a brand, it's not even about the price. Some of them are not that expensive. They make it clear. It's like, no, it's not just Swiss made. It's like actually mostly in Switzerland. Like that's like, it's already a known thing that Swiss made doesn't mean that much. And I think that's an indicator of a huge dilution and a missed opportunity for those companies that are trying to benefit from it. So in sort of different ways, David, myself, and others on the aBlogtoWatch team, through our various conversations, have explained how whatever Swiss made meant, there's been a lot of erosion and dilution of that meaning and of that value. And the companies and government that are stand to benefit from Swiss made probably should reevaluate what it means and then let the world know about that. And I think that's an important use of their time if they get around to it.
Ripley, any concluding thoughts?
Maybe we just need two tiers of Swiss made. We need the current one with its rather loose standards that that exist, where I feel like it's It's like the easy man's play, the one who doesn't really want a Swiss-made watch, but they want to say they have a Swiss-made watch. Well, here's your piece that meets the minimum criteria to say Swiss-made, and then we need like commercial-free Swiss plus HD, whatever we want to call it. Yeah, Pro
Extreme Swiss watch made.
Yeah, the paid tier, if you will.
I would just call the lower end version Swiss-ish or just Swish.
Swissy.
Swish. Swish made.
Yeah, maybe we just need two tiers because, like as Ariel mentioned, we've got a bunch of brands who are now trying to distinguish, like, we're so Swiss. We're like 98+% Swiss. Well, we're 100% Swiss. Well, we're largely made in Switzerland. We just need like the real Swiss made, and then the one where we can just be like, okay, it's Swiss enough for, it's Swiss enough to style at the airport. It
could just say Switzerland? Question mark.
Shrug. Switzerland.
Maybe there's no law for that. Maybe you can put like a question mark behind it, and it's all good.
Another solid ideal for second Swiss made question mark. It must really annoy the watch brands. I mean, there must be. I mean, the likes of Moser, Orage, these kind of guys who've taken Swiss made off their watches. It must really annoy those who consider themselves to be genuinely Swiss made, and not 100%, but in the high 90s, and then they see, I don't know, Longines, Panerai, let's pick a brand, I don't know which one would be more guilty, and they're going, there's no, I know the factory that bit comes from. The only reason that's getting away with Swiss made is because they paid a Swiss watchmaker $100 an hour to assemble the thing, and so 60% of the value was in the wages. Do we hear any whisperings from watch brands that there might be genuinely an attempt to either increase the percentage requirement, or, as Ripley, you jokingly suggest, but maybe not the worst idea in the world, that there is some sort of more Swissish branding that says, yeah, this is actually 90% Swiss made. It's a proper Swiss watch. Any chats from the watch manufacturers themselves, how annoyed some of the more Swiss-based ones actually are?
Well, the question is,
nobody speaks.
Whose interest is it in for this to be so lenient and to be so easy to trick? Probably the large watchmakers. When you're making 200 watches or 2,000 watches, you simply don't have the economies of scale to go after this. So what you want to do is look at the big brands and maybe the big groups and see whether they have a good enough reason to keep this thing as low as possible and as easy to go around as possible.
I mean, surely a genuine piece of proper guerrilla marketing would be for one of the big watch brands, let's say Breitling, because they're independent, to actually start one of those BMW versus Audi campaigns whereby they start just pointing out all the bits of their competitors' watches that aren't made in Switzerland while moving themselves to as close to 100% Swiss made as possible. Could that not actually be a strategy that someone could take to, really raise their profile on what is known as a worldwide, brand identity, Swiss made?
So that gets even into more dicey territory when they're using Swiss suppliers the suppliers themselves may be having rough parts of manufacturing carried out overseas. So, for example, if I'm a movement manufacturer, a Swiss movement manufacturer, and I source certain parts for my movement from overseas in China, but my movement meets the criteria to be a Swiss movement, it's therefore can be put into Swiss-made watches, no problem. But, it then comes down to the brand whose name's on the dial to know what their suppliers are doing. And that's something like a movement that's comprised of lots and lots of parts. When you get into something like a bracelet or a case where it could have the rough stamping or manufacturing carried out overseas, and then, finally machined and milled and finished and whatever into shape over in Switzerland. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors that happen. And even among all of the Swiss made stuff that genuinely is made in Switzerland, some of the parts come out of the same factories for different brands that exist at radically different price points. And so, again, I think David's right when it really isn't the benefits of the large brands to kind of, keep the criteria low and keep as many smoke and mirrors in that process as possible, because they're the ones with that, benefit from those large margins and the economies of scale.
Let me add this. Getting a standard that they'd agreed upon in the first place is kind of a miracle. As you said, there is this idea, well, why come up with like a more intensive requirement? And they had them. The problem is there's no one brand that can make a standard that everyone agrees to, because everyone's like, well, I want to be able to do this, or that's not fair, or that's, whatever they're going to do. It's been hard for them. So, these brands come up with their own standards. Rolex, Patek Philippe, you listen to Ardon, they're just like, okay, we can't agree with anymore. We come up with our own standards. So it'd be great to say like, a different one made in Switzerland, but they're inevitably going to argue what that means. Oh, what do you mean? The people doing it are in Switzerland, but they don't live in Switzerland? Oh, that doesn't count. So you can cut this hair so many ways that it become impossible where something is as competitive with watches, right? Because there's a lot at stake. There's a price point at stake, right? There's sometimes someone's like, I don't know how they're able to get that price so low and have that term on there. And that's really been the challenge with Swiss made. It's not at the top, it's at the bottom, right? It's how cheap of a product you can make and still call it Swiss made. That's what people are concerned about. It's not how expensive of a product can you make and call it Swiss made. So I don't know if there's a solution to this, because Swiss made as it is right now at least has some agreement, and it's somewhat Swiss. You can't just have like a shell company in Switzerland. It's a little bit more involved in that, so that's good. And then beyond that, I think the argument is, well, at the end of the day, the consumer is really the only one that benefits. It's not like if it doesn't say Swiss made, they're like, oh, my watch is going to fall apart. Oh my God, or something like that. So this is where caveat emptor comes in, and the consumer, if you care very much about a human being versus a finely maintained Swiss robot, if you really care about that, then you will do that deep dive, and worst case scenario, ask the brand. And smaller brands that do handmade stuff would proudly tell you, sir, madam, don't worry. No electricity has ever touched anything which has touched this watch. Worry not. And that's a conversation you can have if that's important to you. So I think it's a great discussion, but I don't know that there's like a lot of like specific change that we could advocate for, at least right now.
Although I do have this vision, I wonder what the nearest billboard to Pal Expo is that someone could get. Maybe a brand, a Moser type, the sort of thing they do, and then get into a lot of trouble for, and then deny that they ever did it for several years, and then the advert would appear again several years later, freely available to everybody. But an advert that just has all the parts from various different brands and arrows pointing at it, and then the country of origin, and then at the top, welcome to the greatest Swiss watch show on earth, pointing to the entrance of Pal Expo, and then just said this part from this brand is made here, and then like a wee Moser logo at the bottom corner, Swiss made.
Can I think two hypothetical situations on what constitutes a more Swiss watch? So or a more Swiss made part. Let's even keep it simple. What if we have it's the same machine in China that is then shipped to Switzerland? So the machine has changed its nationality, and then it machines a part in Switzerland. Is that more Swiss made than a Swiss machine that goes to China to machine a part in China and then travels back to Switzerland? Is it where the manufacturing is carried out? Is it the craftsmanship? David hates
Ripley, you're failing to understand just how much of a touch point immigration issues are currently in the European Union. And so talking about importing and exporting machines is just going to blow several people's minds. We're in enough trouble over here as it is without worrying about the nationality of machines.
It's actually a great question, but it's also giving me an aneurysm. So it's kind of difficult.
And then at what point, if you put the machine on a boat and just sail it from China already? Could it be a watch made in international waters?
International waters?
It's carried out in maritime law.
I love it. When you've run out of watches to talk about, this is what happens, guys.
When there's just nothing good coming. There's that wee island.
All
there's
vintage releases now.
I can't remember the name, but there's like an ancient, like World War II, World War I military installation off the coast of England, I think, which used to have cannons and whatever machine guns on it. And then somebody tried to live on it long enough and gave it its own currency and declared its independence. Maybe if we put the machines there, then not only can we can create a brand new country that the watches are made in at the same time, and just tick all our immigration boxes. See, no problem. Problem solved.
Can you imagine how mad the Swiss would be if you established a country called Watch Country? They would just go mad. Watchmaking country.
Frank Muller already has watch land.
Watch land. Do the Swiss have any overseas territories? You know, like the UK has. Apologies to anyone living over there that's listening, but for example, the Falkland Islands or Jersey. Are the Swiss known? Do they have a little? Is there a little part of South America that still flies a Swiss flag? Do the Swiss ever invade anywhere?
Seems very.
They could take over the Vatican. That's the only thing they can do. A coup in the Vatican.
The Swiss Guard in their pantaloons.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, let's move on to something, and we like to review the articles that get the most comments, because that's always a good place to start. And maybe this is the biggest. Yeah, maybe this is the biggest antidote. Would that be the right thing? Let's just show you the picture if you're watching on video that this says Swiss made on it, and then we can discuss from there. Ripley, this is the Philipp Plein Crypto King Flying Tourbillon watches, Swiss made, that you reviewed. It has the most comments this week, not necessarily all entirely positive, but what did you actually forget about the whole Richard Mille thing? Let's treat the watch initially on its own merits. Thoughts, feelings, emotions?
So
I have a lot to say, but I want Ripley to talk first.
It is such a radical departure in terms of just the level that they're working with and, you know, what they're selling these for compared to the brand's other offerings, that it doesn't really, it's almost as if it's a different brand entirely. You know, categorically up until the Swiss made versions, all of its watches were like priced under $1,000. This is, you know, going to be somewhere mid 5 figures, but you can only contact the boutique to figure out how to purchase it. But it's allegedly Swiss made. It's got a Landeron movement, so Swiss movement supplier, forged carbon case in all sorts of colors. But it is so radically different than a somewhat similar looking Philipp Plein piece that we'll be reviewing later. So it is an interesting piece. It's so different from the brand. I was honestly shocked. I thought that we had a misunderstanding when they first told me that they were making a Swiss-made flying tourbillon.
I mean, Philipp Plein means absolutely nothing to me. I don't know if that's because I'm entirely fashion ignorant or whether this is an American thing. David, does Philipp Plein mean something to you, or is Philipp Plein just an American branding like Kith or whatever?
No, it's not American to me at all. It's more like.
So it's just my fashion ignorance then. I can sit with my fashion ignorance.
What does it have to do with fashion? Nothing. It's the opposite of fashion, I think. It's just a status item, basically, a status brand, as far as I'm concerned. But I want to hear what Ariel has to say.
Yeah, come on, Ariel. Roll up the sleeves, get stuck in, drum roll.
Thank you. Well, I've been studying what this brand has been doing for a while, and I'm fascinated by it because they're really doing something quite different than others. And what I think is also important to say, with the money that they have, they could be building a pretty much any watch. It's not like they're limited to this. It's not like this is the best they could come up with. This is a specific type of thing they're trying to do. And I see this watch as being almost a timepiece equivalent of like some like kind of shock value Banksy artwork. this is not intended to be original, nor is it intended to be particularly beautiful. It's intended to be sort of like extremely macho, in your face. It's a caricature of a look, which is that Richard Mille look. It's also a certain statement. Philipp Plein can make a tourbillon, because for a long time, like, only the most prestigious watch brands can make a tourbillon. And there's sort of a braggadocio about it. We can do one as well. Yeah, they just pay someone to make it. Of course, it's, they can buy the movements and stuff like that. But there's something about saying we can do this as well. It's almost like, when rappers kind of like sing songs about one another in sort of a hostile way. This is almost like, hey, other Swiss watch brands, what do you think about us now? Or what are you going to do next? Sure. It's a play. And there is that active social conversation going on amongst many of the sort of wealthier but younger mindset people about what's cool, what isn't, who gets to make what, who's allowed to make what. And this is very much a defiance within that wealthier pop art buying demographic. For us, as sort of like watch nerds trying to understand it from a technical level or an artistic level or anything like that, we completely miss the point, because it is sort of a dumb, ugly watch, but that we would also wear. We're not sure why. And to understand it, you have to see it as being a caricature of something with Philipp Plein's skin. So in a sense, it is actually the ultimate current epitome of fashion meets social statement, which is, again, a very popular theme in fashion. Yeah, and within that spirit, I discussed this in the article, to call out the elephant in the room in the Richard Mille similar aesthetic. This is a lot more common in the realm of like fashion and streetwear, where one brand takes a notable style of another and then puts their own spin on it, whether it's like remixes of songs or one brand, doing another's famous colorway in their own style or something. So if you look at like some of Philipp Plein's sneakers, some of them literally look like Jordan 1s that have gone some crazy rhinestone treatment. So it's not like, and if you look at all of the brand's watches, most of them have some famous aspirational watch that it's almost like this irreverent version that it's an homage to. So this very much continues that spirit. It's not like out of nowhere they decided to make something that looks like an RM. It very much sort of fits in with that design language of... Yeah, it's highly consistent with what they do. Yeah, it just done at a level that's like so much higher than anything they've done thus far, such as the other Crypto King pieces. Look, the name of the watch itself, Crypto King. I mean, it's almost a joke on the times we live in, that there are these individuals out there who made a bunch of money betting on junk. I mean, it is a weird manifestation of our culture when you can get rich being a complete moron. I'm not saying you're dumb doing that. I'm just saying, like, the world doesn't benefit at all. No one is being helped by this stuff. It's a useless commodity, the cryptocurrency. And yet you have people who have become crypto kings. I think it's actually important that Philipp Plein has created a watch as dumb as that profession is. And on the topic of Philipp Plein watches, I actually saw one out in the wild while in New York having lunch. It was on a woman's wrist. The couple was from Australia. I see what appears to be a rainbow bezeled aquanaut. Nice. And then upon closer inspection, I realized it is a piece that Ariel has recently reviewed that you'll be seeing hit the website in the coming future. And how close did you have to get to it in order to realize that that's what it was? 100 meters? They weren't sitting far enough for me to need more than a couple glances. But I was genuinely excited to see one out in the wild, in broad daylight having lunch. The brand is a success story. It's clearly not for everyone, but none of these fashion brands are. And as we're sitting here talking about it, and again, the chutzpah to actually call a watch Crypto King and do it tongue in cheek. I mean, it's great. It's fantastic. Well, the particular comment of the week actually goes to our very own David. Hats off to you, Ripley. I have absolutely no idea how I could have put my thoughts into words on this one.
followed by Charlie saying, beware, David, the next email in your inbox from Ariel could read, interesting Invicta for you to review. So we're looking forward to David's Invicta review coming soon. Right, we're going to play Hitmas maybe soon, but we're going to do something a little bit different. And the guys don't know about this, we would normally play Guess the Price of the Seiko. We've occasionally played Guess the Price of the Credor, but a particular brand in the last few weeks has decided to tell us what they charge. So we're going to play Guess the Price of the Patek Philippe Grand Complication. Because on the website, Patek Philippe now tell you what they will charge you for all of their watches, not just the ones that you can't buy in the boutiques, but also the ones that you would have to know somebody in order to buy. So we're going to do it slightly differently. I'm going to put them on the screen, so maybe you want to go and check this out on YouTube at aBlogtoWatch. And what you're going to see is a few grand complications. We'll show you the big screen to start off with. So you can get a feel for all of the grand complications that now have their prices with them. So you can now figure out what all of these are.
Now we actually know to an actual monetary figure how little we can afford these.
Yes,
I don't think I can afford that. Now I specifically know how much I can afford it.
Just wait to see.
It's for the actual kings, involved. Not the crypto kings.
Yeah, yeah, very true. So what we're gonna try and do is rearrange these in order of price. So the first one up is this. So you need to take some notes. First one up is this left-hand drive, Grand Complication, the 5373P, manual winding, left-hander chronograph, unusual arrangement of pushers and displays, platinum case, etc., etc. So you want to write a wee number down on a bit of paper as to what you think this will be priced at. Okay, so you can see on the screen what it is. Go and have a look on YouTube. Caliber CHR 27/525 PSQ. No idea what that means. I'm assuming it's probably Swiss made. It is 38.3 mil in diameter. So that is our first watch. Write down your number. Okay. Our second is this little number, the Celestial. Okay, the 6102P Celestial dial, where I think most folk will be familiar with what this looks like. Very few people will be familiar with what it actually costs. The Caliber 240 LU CLC, Sky Chart, Phases of the Moon, Meridian Passage, etc., etc. is 44 mil. This one is made in platinum, and for however many tens, stroke hundreds, stroke millions of pounds it costs, you even get 30 metres of water resistance, though it's unclear as to whether that is the new 30 metres of water resistance from Patek or the old 30 metres of water resistance from Patek. It is up to you to choose as to whether you put your several $100,000 watch to the test. So write down a number, and then a couple more. We have this number, the Shrek, also known as the 5520P, the one with all the pushers on it, local time, home time, calendar, etc., etc. Lots going on in this watch and plenty for you to catch all of those pushers on as you go about your daily life, whether you would like to or not. There's even a wee video on the website you can watch to persuade yourself whether you want to buy them. So that is the 5520P. So write down a number. Okay, we're nearly there, gentlemen. Hope you're getting these all in order. Okay, we go for what may be considered one of the big boys. This is the 5531G Grand Complication, the self-winding, multiple city zone watch that you're familiar with. It's even got a wee picture with a wee Swiss flag in the middle to let you know that it is Swiss made. This is a 40 mil watch, Grand View enamel in the middle, and it is also a minute repeater that always chimes the local time I assume that is in some way, shape, or form useful. And then finally, we have this. Is this the granddaddy of them all? Who knows? You'll get to decide in a minute. The 6301p Grand Complication Manual Winding. It chimes. It's a Grand Sonnerie. It's a petite. I don't know what petite sonnerie is, but it's one of them as well. It's got enamel in the back. It's 44.8mm, so it is huge, very suitable for a Breitling man such as Ripley. Very nice looking watch, possibly the best looking one of all the ones we've seen so far. But
Can we see it?
Much is it? Oh,
we can see
yes,
it.
would help if I shared it. Help if I shared it with you. This one. There we go. The Grand Few Complication Manual Winding 6301p. Nice. Okay, let's stop the sharing for a minute. Okay, so let me just do some jiggery pokery here so that I can see how much they cost while you can't, and then we can take it from there. I have to expand all of these websites to give us the answer. Okay, so gentlemen, who would like to have a guess at the cheapest one? What's number? What's the baby?
I can't express how random my numbers and guesses are.
Yeah, it's so great.
My guess was it was number 3, the one I think you called Shrek. I don't know why you called it Shrek. I think that's the cheapest. I could be totally wrong. No idea.
It definitely is. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Okay. So we're in agreement that the Shrek is the cheapest. You are correct. The question is, what did you guess as to how much it is?
I dropped my note. 200,000.
200,000, not bad guess. Ripley?
I thought about 120.
Okay, David?
I put 120 as well.
Okay, it is in fact
242,000
Swiss Great British pounds.
So random. What the hell?
That's almost $300,000. I was way off.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
You're still the closest.
I'm not going to do well. Yeah.
I have to multiply all my numbers on this basis.
No cheating now. Okay, so which is the second most expensive watch in your opinion, gentlemen?
I thought the first one.
I said
the first one, yes.
I said number 2.
Which one? The problem is I'm realising the slight flaw in my plan, which I've now rearranged these watches in the order of expenses, so can't remember which way they were originally organised.
53.73, so the left-hand drive chrono.
The left-hand drive chrono. Okay, if I told you that is not the next most expensive one.
I was going the Celestial one, the second one you showed.
The Celestial is correct. The Celestial is the next most. Ripley's got 2 out of 2 here. So the Celestial. The question is, how much did you think this was, Ripley?
Well, I'm going to be way off because I was thinking maybe about like 165. So
nope. Ariel,
I put 350,000.
350. And David,
I put 550.
550. It is in fact 305. So Ariel's doing not too badly.
Oh my gosh.
Not too badly. 305,780 Great British pounds.
So that's close to $350,000.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's 400,000. Yeah.
Okay, so next up, David, what's your guess now for the third most expensive?
Then by the power of deduction, it has to be the left-hand drive.
The left-hand drive is correct. The left-hand drive is correct. The question is, how much is this left-hand drive watch? A watch barely useful to a tenth of the population and only 38.3 millimeters, so it's tiny as well.
It's a split-second chrono. That's important for people to understand.
Split-second chrono.
So I put 500,000.
500,000. Ripley?
Again, I'm going to be way off. I was thinking like maybe 320. So like...
And Ariel?
Yeah, I saw the price. I'm off. I put 400,000. I know I'm off.
Yeah, I revealed the price too soon. It's 509,630.
Like basically $600,000.
Yeah, I do wonder if I went into a Patek Philippe boutique in the UK to buy one of these. Do you genuinely think they would charge me £509,630?
Well, they're trained to try.
or do you think they'd round it up or round it down? You'd think for a £500,000 watch, they'd at least round it down for you.
They want you to think that there's actually a reason for that imprecise one. That's the genius. Once it's a little, it's like that must be the result of some calculation or something.
About this.
Here's the crazy part. If you asked for like a different type of clasp, you would pay more for it.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Okay, so what's next? The fourth most expensive Patek is which one?
I guess whatever number 4 was.
The World Timer, I think that was.
No, I think it was the last
one before that.
It's a close call between the sonnery and the minute repeater because the sonnery is more complicated than a minute repeater. But then
the other one has the hand-painted dial. Don't forget the hand-painted dial.
Yeah. So that's why I was saying the last one was less expensive than the...
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it was close for me too.
Okay, so the last one, the black dial one rather than the hand-painted dial. If I tell you that in fact you're wrong, the hand-painted dial is in fact the next most expensive.
Yes.
So
good.
So
okay, good. I might be closer to the price on this one since I got the order wrong.
55,
don't reveal it.
31G. Okay, go on.
How
much, David?
Sorry, let's go. I put 385, but on this basis I have to call it 750.
Ripley?
Well, I had put 460, but I'm going to go ahead and put 800 now.
This is like being at Christie's auction just before you get all your data stolen. Ariel.
So random.
The number I put is the unchanged number of 650,000.
Okay, the answer is 590,000.
Oh yeah, you're right on the money. That's good.
So it is literally, it's about 90 grand more expensive than the left-hand drive. So almost a good deal, one would suggest, for 590. So that then means that the watch that is the most expensive is the 6301P Grand Complication. The question is, gentlemen, how much is this watch according to Patek Philippe? I'll show you the image again. Plain black dial.
I originally put 865 on this. So finally one where I was not too far.
Well, we'll see about that. So 860 Ripley?
Well, again, being way off, but my original value of 405, I'd like to go ahead and double that at 810.
Okay, Ariel.
And my original unchanged number is 800,000.
Okay, you are so far off as to be...
It's in the millions.
This is 1.245 million pounds.
This is much better than Guess the Price of Psycho. This is so random.
So there you go. That is the Patek Philippe. It makes you wonder why they kept it hidden for so long.
By weight, I want to know what volume of Seikos you could buy for this amount. Like, could you buy like a house weight in Seiko?
Like a container ship.
You could literally buy all of the Seikos.
All the Seikos or a petit sonnerie, not even a grand sonnerie, just a petit sonnerie. Which is the grand sonnerie.
Anyway, there you go. So that's without adding gems to any of them, which you can obviously do.
Isn't it amazing to spend 1.3 million and still feel inadequate in a way? You only get the petit one for 1.3 million.
There we go. Anyway, that's us for the main show. We're not going to play Hit Miss Maybe, so let's let some folk into the room.
That's like a Bugatti with 3 cylinders. You know, it's like, well, it's 1.2 million, but it's not going anywhere.
Well, we've let Matt, Guy, and Will into the room to play. Not guess the price of the Seiko. We've just never mind. That's. You three will understand when you listen to the full show, which hopefully you will do. We're here to play Hit Miss Maybe. So let's go round the room as we normally do and find out who everybody is, where they are, and what they're wearing. David, where are you, and are you wearing anything? And I don't mean like the clothing conversation we had earlier on. I mean watches.
Yeah, I'm in Budapest and I'm not wearing a watch because I'm at home, but I did prepare a Vulcan Cricket President 36, which is cool. And I hope it will not go off in the middle of a sentence or something.
Listen, Ripley, in front of the Great Wall, so we know where you are, but what are you wearing?
I went on a run earlier, so I'm wearing a Garmin. This is the Video Active 5, and we have a full review of this one on the site.
Good stuff. Ariel, where are you? What are you wearing?
I am at home in Los Angeles, just got back yesterday, actually, and I am wearing a really cool pilot watch. This is the new DIN, I think it's 8300, actually says on the side. Yeah, the 8330 certified Loco Pilot watch. This is like the newest Pilot watch standard. This is like the only other non-Zin watch to have it. So I'm such a nerd with these things, and that's what this is.
Cool, good stuff. Matt, good morning. Where are you? What are you wearing?
Morning, everybody. I'm in beautiful overcast Leighton Buzzard, and today I'm wearing a partner watch of mine, which is the Boken Odyssey, which I produced the strap for. So pleased to be wearing that. It's a very chunky 1,000-meter dive watch.
Good stuff. Guy will judge you on the strap quality shortly. Guy, how are you? Where are you? What are you wearing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm on the overcast south coast near Poole today. I normally say sunny, but it really is not. And I'm wearing today the D-Trash Like Mania. Available soon. Pre-orders available. Get online.
And despite the fact that you've been on the show a dozen times with Ariel, Ariel's only just understood the whole trash thing on last week's show. So you two can have a chat about that later on.
Could Ariel please go on to our Instagram, because I put up a whole post about this yesterday, and people who don't get it, and I don't understand it. Like, people are like, why would you put trash in my name? It's like, that's the point. That's the whole point.
Oh, I thought the post is about how Ariel don't understand it. You're like, oh, why does Ariel not get this?
It's really about how many people on Instagram think they're funny to go, do you know you've got trash in the name? It's like, yes. We do.
I would not have assumed you didn't know that. That was something I thought was patently obvious.
And the man who appears to be sitting in front of the best fake Zoom chat thing, like image background that I've ever seen. It's absolutely amazing quality, that green screen, Will.
It's funny, you could almost just reach out and
actually move
and kind of touch it, couldn't you? That's AI for you.
That's AI for you. Anyway, Will has joined us. Where are you? What are you wearing, Will?
Thanks very much for having me back. I'm in Kent, which is, of course, overcast as well, because it's in the UK and generally. And I am wearing a 1970s Tissot manual wind watch that was my dad's. It's not particularly valuable at all, but obviously lots of sentimental value. So yeah,
cool, very nice. I'm in Scotland. It's raining. I'm wearing a Panerai. I am not wearing a D-Trash watch because that was last week's job. And a guy doesn't need any more publicity than he's already getting. Right.
Well, I need the watch back at some point.
You do need the watch back. Well, come to Scotland and get it. Scots law, possession is 9/10 and all the rest of it. I will send you the watch back, duly imbued with Scottish rain and salt water, having been thoroughly tested. Right, let's crack on with the show. And first up is going to be a watch that has taken a lot of comments this week. This is the Audemars Piguet square brackets remaster 02 self-winding 41mm watch. I'm assuming the square brackets thing is Audemars Piguet's making and not our way of writing it on the website and some sort of typographical error. David, you reviewed this watch. Give us the quick 60-second.
Yeah, it's been over 4 years that AP launched the first remaster, the remaster 01, and this is the second try and the second effort, and AP is sitting on a wealth of amazing vintage watches and designs ready to be revived, and this is sort of their second effort. It's almost $50,000. It has a movement that is familiar from other watches, and in a way, it's more of a casing exercise than anything else, really. And for that, I thought, well, I will tell you what I thought. But that's all you need to know. Yeah.
What you thought in a minute. So here we go then. Let's give it a hit, a miss, or a maybe. 1, 2, 3, go. Hit, miss, hit, maybes. A collection of varieties. I have to say, I'm not sure. I think this is one of these ones, if I could show all three signs, I would show all three, because it's a hit, a miss, and a maybe on so many different levels. I did give it a hit. But David, how did you vote, having reviewed it?
Yeah, I voted a miss because I think it's too expensive for what it is, and it's sort of a lazy exercise in a way. Especially there's this open case back picture where you can see this long winding stem just reaching. It's so 60s in a bad way. You know, it's kind of a lazy effort in a way, I thought. And yeah, it's just too expensive and not intricate enough in its execution.
Yeah, it is an odd looking beast for sure. Ripley?
So I said it's a hit just because it is so refreshing to say AP do something that isn't a Royal Oak or offshore or a Code 1159. Obviously, this limited edition's not going to be, a core collection offering, but I've been saying AP needs to do something that isn't a Royal Oak or a Code 1159 for years. They did that. I'm not a buyer for this one. There's certain things I don't absolutely love about it, but it's so great to see them doing something different, and also different that's not like a different iteration of a Royal Oak, something actually different. So I had to say it's a hit.
Good stuff. Ariel, how did you vote?
I gave it a hit. I don't disagree with anything that David said or that anyone else who doesn't like it's going to say. I'll probably fully agree with them. It's not the prettiest watch. It's not a very cohesive marriage of case and movement. Like all that stuff is true. It definitely costs too much. But I like it because it does something that the Swiss watch industry says they want to do today. And the irony is, like, they couldn't actually do it today. They just had to redo something they'd done in the past. And that is what I say, make the concept watch. The idea is that you make a watch that is just an exploration of a shape. It doesn't really need to work that well. It doesn't necessarily have the same cohesion of, movement and case as maybe sort of like a more integrated type of watch does. It's just sort of like a what if. What if we made watches that look like this? And in this sort of time where this watch originally came out, this was chic, this was interesting. There was experimentation of form and geometry and stuff like that. Cars and buildings had all these sort of wild geometric designs. And from a fashion perspective, that's cool. And I want the watch industry to do that more today. I want them to come out with limited edition watches that not everyone loves. They're just explorations of weird stuff. The brand used to do that. So maybe this is an entrance to them doing it again. But look at how much we're talking about it. Look how much sort of press it's gotten because it does represent, again, it is a pure manifestation of a concept watch. This is a redo of an old concept watch. Let's hope that this ushers in an era of new concept watches.
Matt, what do you think of this? How did you vote?
I voted maybe, and like Ariel said, I don't necessarily disagree with anything else that anybody else has said, but whether those things make it a hit, I don't necessarily know. I like the striking design. I like the Art Deco purity of it. It's unique. But like has been said amongst many people, that the extension of the glass into the edge of the case on the right-hand side sort of opens up into negative space. There's nothing going on underneath there. It doesn't highlight anything. It's just design for design's sake, which could be seen as a plus point for many, like Ariel was saying, of the geometric shapes of the 60s and 70s. So that's why I'm giving it a maybe.
Guy, is this a Cybertruck watch from Audemars Piguet? Because that side view certainly looks like that bit of window should open. You'd be able to put some luggage, some very expensive AP luggage under the glass boot.
Do you know what? I read that comment after I first saw it, and I was like, no, I'm going to ignore that. I saw this, and I thought 10 out of 10. I thought it was a solid 10 out of 10. My first reaction when I saw it was, wow, that's a pristine vintage watch. It looks amazing. AP would never make anything like that nowadays. They just, like Ripley said, they just want to kind of rinse out the Royal Oak and put some rainbow diamonds on it, which is what they've been doing. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's gorgeous. I love that they've done it. I don't think you can complain that like an AP is too expensive for what it is, because they're all too expensive for what they are. That's like the brand. Like, it's got AP on it. It's going to be too expensive for kind of some of its parts. I think it's beautiful. I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's probably of the ones that we've looked at on here, is probably my favourite.
Okay.
And I just think it's really nice for AP to, challenge what they've been doing, because they've generally bought out like offshores and Royal Oaks and boring watches.
Will, how did you vote? What did you think of this? What does your artist's eye say to this asymmetry?
It's beautiful. I said it was a hit. I was a little bit skeptical at first, but it's so nice to see, to echo what people have said, so nice to see something that isn't a royal oak, because I'm probably going to ostracize myself from the watch community. I'm not a huge fan of the royal oak. It's, I'm just going to say it's fine, but it's not something that hugely excites me like it excites a lot of other people, which I hugely respect. But I love the brutalist design of this. It's beautiful. I could just sit and look at it all day long. I don't mind that it copies a previous vintage, because I try and find the vintage, and if I didn't, then if I happen to have the 40,000 pounds or euros, you'd go for this. I think it's whilst it's expensive, it sounds like it's fairly priced within the AP range, so it can't be too cheap, I don't think. It looks like it's a classic design. It's something you could imagine is handed down from generation to generation. For me it's a hit, and it's nice to see something a bit different as well, as people have said.
A bit of a shout out to one of the folk in our chat, to Jumping Jalapeno, who photoshopped this up with a wee Velux symbol as a sign just on the side of the image. I don't know whether Velux is a thing that travels to the States, as to whether that is a brand name that's familiar to you, Ripley or Ariel. It's a brand of roof windows. I'm not sure what the equivalent in the States would be, but for those of us familiar in the UK with the brand Velux, it was quite funny.
Windows, you said?
Yeah, so roof windows, very specifically a company that makes...
I think we need to explain, there was a lot of chat about it would look like a watch that had a side extension built, like a building that had a side extension built on the side of it.
Without planning consent.
Yeah.
The council were going to shut down and make you take away to return to its original status. So there we go. That's the AP. That was a very highly commented upon article this week, so go and check that out. Next up then, we're not going to get to guess the price of the Credor, but David, you also reviewed this. I don't know, you might have a clean sweep this week of watches of review for Hit Miss maybe. New release Credor Locomotive watch by Gerald Genta, revived for brand's 50th anniversary. We've gone from one silly shaped watch to another silly shaped watch. Is this watch equally desirable as the original, or just a complete pastiche? Give us your TLDR on this.
Well, it's interesting. It was not something I was expecting from Credor. It's the cheapest Credor currently available by a tremendous margin. It's priced at $12,000, 14,000 euros. But it does have a relatively weak and average at best movement, the CR01, which they call new, but it's spec wise it's old and dated. So it's just such a weird watch from Credor. I'm not sure if there's anyone out there who's not had enough of the Genta re-releases over the last 5 or 10 years, but if there's someone still waiting for one from Japan, here it is for you, with an average movement for the measly sum of $12,000.
Yeah, that's a good summary. If you want some 12 grand Gerald Genta action, then this is where you go. But is it a hit, a miss, or a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. Miss. Oh, Ariel is the sole voice in the wilderness giving it a hit. I'll start. I think this is a miss, not because of the watch, but because of the brand, if that makes any sense. I mean, obviously, it was originally a Credor, but a $12,000 Credor is like how they've been pricing Seikos at Grand Seiko prices. This completely blurs the line again. Make this a $50,000 Credor because they do all sorts of fancy things, fancy movements, all this, and maybe it makes a bit more sense. But a $12,000 Credor just doesn't make any sense to me, so that's why it's a miss. David, why did it stay a miss for you?
Yeah, it's just an odd one. I wish that it's just, who wants this at this price? You can't see the movement. Why does it say Credor on it? Why is it so expensive? I like the design. I do like that. I like the flying lugs and the throwback, but I just don't see the point. I wouldn't ever buy this for $12,000 ever. I would buy it for 25 or 30 if it had like an amazing Credor movement in it, or maybe a reworked amazing Grand Seiko movement in it. But as it is, it just falls through the cracks.
Indeed. Ripley, you also give it a miss?
Yeah, again, it's not the design, although I don't think the design's personally for me on this one. But yeah, I like it well enough. But I think it's weird enough of a design that it needs to be done like at a really high level and therefore at a higher price point. Make it in platinum, give it a crazy movement, quadruple the price minimum, and have it be that thing in their catalog. But I almost take issue with it because it so blurs the lines. And, Credor was kind of this other thing that at least for Grand Seiko and Seiko blurred all their lines. It was, yeah, well, it's like 40 grand or something like that. Now it's like, well, I'm pretty sure I've written up a bunch of Grand Seikos in the last calendar year that cost more than this thing. So, here we're back at it. You can't see the movement, like David said, which I always think is one of the nicer features on a Credor. So, yeah, I don't love it.
Yeah. It's possible that myself, David, and Ripley are under the influence of the Patek Philippe price review that we just did, and so all we want now is more expensive watches. Ariel, why did you give this a hit?
I got a comment actually on what you just said, because I was amazed that all of you so far have just been like, why does it not cost more? We've never said that. But we've officially never said that about anything. We have never said that about any watch. It should cost more. That boggles my mind. Look, the Gerald Genta sort of like, it's heat and popularity. Maybe there'll be another revival, but it's never going to be sort of stronger than it is right now. With so much of what's going on, with the popularity of things going on at multiple brands, including Gerald Charles, which is sort of making its big splash right now, that Ripley is promoting,
Ripley is
right?
Shilling.
So, like, there's obviously a lot of Gerald Genta in the conversation, and Seiko Corporation, they're very Me Too about this. They're like, well, not that Me Too, but they're like, hey, we also had Genta do something for us. Don't forget. So they're coming back out with it as part of the let's stand in line. They love standing in the same line as the Swiss. And that's essentially what they're doing. That they're coming out with this at a lower price point with the typical Credor name, I think is awesome for the collector that wants something different. This has all the right hallmarks because it combines like some familiarity. Like, wait a minute, I feel like I know some of those things. That bracelet looks kind of familiar, and that's sort of, but I don't know the rest of it. So it's got so much storytelling built into it. The titanium case, because Seiko's making it, it's going to be really good quality. Yeah, David's right. It could probably use a fancier movement, but honestly, I don't really care. It's going to be fine, and it's not the same movement as you see in all the other Grand Seikos and Seikos, so it's a little bit different. My only concern is that I think it wears small. In fact, I know it wears small because I think I've seen one of the originals, and it's not a big watch. So I don't know if I would personally wear it, but there's just a lot of like FU in this to other brands in a lot of positive ways that for me, this is like one of the statement watches of the year, and that it is $12,000. That's almost the price that I think most of other Gerald Genta's watches should be priced at. So I'm actually quite happy about this.
So Matt, or Credor leading the way that others should be following?
They're not going to do more of this. In fact, we have no idea where Credor is going. But as sort of a one-time thing every once in a while, this stuff makes me excited.
Matt?
No, they're not. I like the fact that, I guess that it's building on the previous design better than the previous reincarnation of that model. I love the faceted lugs. I like the better quality bracelet that they've done on this. But people who follow me on social media will know my opinion of the anatomical dial design reminiscent of a cat's butthole, a la Alpine Eagle Chopard. So not the most attractive design to
that for everybody.
So in case anybody was hoping to use that analogy themselves, apologies.
Cancels Alpine Eagle order.
Yeah, the hex bolt design I kind of like in some ways, except for the recess on the crown itself, which means I hope they don't need an Allen key to wind up this watch. There's a great big. Otherwise, there's probably something wrong with that. I'll probably go back to some of the comments people have made about the Credor movement they put in this one. I cannot believe that everyone's complaining it's so inexpensive. I say so inexpensive. 12 grand is still a lot. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, just to echo Ariel's sentiments there. Yes. Also, in terms of
I
design,
suspect me, David, and Ripley need our heads examined after a Patek review.
Yeah. I don't want it to be more expensive. I want it to be better and more expensive. Give me the $30,000 version with the lovely movement, or platinum or something like that. Don't just
hike the price.
It's already too expensive.
This is like the $10 steak
for what it is. But if it were more expensive than this, then it could be better. Maybe at the higher price, it could be justified a little bit more. I mean, I'm still baffled by all the justifications people come up for the HE and for some of the Credors that are stratospherically expensive for what they are, but they make it. So maybe it could be something along those lines, because as it's expensive.
How about the novel idea of keeping it this price and just making it better at this price? There's a novel suggestion.
Okay. But also I know that they're going back on the original design, so they're not likely to be making many changes from the original. But the junction between the bracelet and the case seems clunky. The fact that it goes to that narrow center link before it rejoins the case it seems like it's being contrary for the sake of being contrary, trying to meld the sort of a modern sports bracelet with the dressy case. The sharp angles on the two center links and the rounded hexagonal case shape just don't work for me.
Guy?
I gave it a miss. To me, it's like someone stuck a 20p piece on an 8p bracelet. It's ugly. And there's nothing I like about it. Although I just want to put a plea out to the room that if you're talking about Gerald Genta, can we start hyping up the Pasha? Because I've got one to sell, and no one cares that Gerald Genta designed the Pasha. Every other Genta seems to rock it, apart from that one, and it's just sitting.
The Pasha will have its time. Worry not, sir. Love for it will come.
Can we get a date?
We don't know when, but eventually that ship will come in.
Okay. Because it's a type job. I don't really like it. I mean, Will's already badmouthed Gerald Genta once today, so you can go on to him to get more hate than that. But I just saw it in the proportion. It looks wrong. It's it's got an angular bracelet and it's got kind of subtle curves on the watch face. There's literally nothing I like about it.
Will,
it does
go on,
look...
give us your best Gerald Genta bashing.
And another thing, it does look a bit photoshopped, doesn't it? And I can see now with the bracelet, with the actual watch itself, too close to the Alpine Eagle. 100%. I actually kind of liked the Alpine Eagle for some other reasons.
Until Matt ruined it.
until it's just completely been ruined now. Thanks very much, Matt. It looks a bit mismatched. It does. I mean, I use this comment a lot. It looks a bit like if you typed into AI, please design me a Gerald Genta watch, and it's just kind of combining lots of different features. In it, I said it was a miss. I mean, you were talking about the price, and I was kind of reminded of the Stella Artois lager, the advertising they had in the UK, which was reassuringly expensive. It wasn't going to go cheaper. It was just going to be reassuringly expensive. And sometimes you need something reassuringly expensive, but this is obviously not it. And we should probably all look at Pasha design watches now, which I think are due for a revival. In interest, so yeah.
Hashtag
on an unrelated note.
Yes, an unrelated note, coming from absolutely nowhere. I'll make sure that we put a Pasha. Well, maybe Guy, if you send us an image of the watch you're trying to sell, we'll put it as one of the show note images, just at the side for no reason at all. It'll just appear. If you put in really tiny letters the price you would like at the bottom of it, we'll stick it on the website. Right, finally for today, We have this. It was actually Ripley that reviewed it. The Richard Mille RM 2705 Flying Tourbillon Rafa Nadal watch. So I think we've got all the stupid watch shapes covered in today's hit miss. Maybe Ripley, give us a quick too long didn't read.
So this is the latest, and it sounds like the final Nadal piece that RM's going to do. They call it the climatic culmination of this partnership or something to that effect. It is in super, super light. It's out of a new type of carbon TPT, different wave and stronger resin. So it's supposed to be light, stronger. It doesn't actually use sapphire for the crystal. It uses some type of like super light resin, poly composite of sorts. And rather than being the old case architecture where there's a band and a case back and a front bezel part, the whole back part is a singular piece. And then the bezel and kind of flange ring thing mounting from the top. Some of the bridges are in carbon, some of them are in titanium, all very lightweight. And yes, it's a tourbillon, so you need that when you play tennis, of course.
Absolutely. So this £1.15 million watch, and don't let that price influence your decision as to whether you think this is a hit, a miss, or a maybe, obviously. This over £1 million watch, is this a hit, a miss, or a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. Maybes, hits. Oh, an all-round maybe with the exception of Ripley. I thought it was a maybe just because it almost seems like Richard Mille have done something newish. It's not just a complete rehash with the case design. And yes, £1.1 million, dollars, whatever, doesn't really matter what currency it's in. Lira, maybe, if it would make a difference. It makes it as a maybe, not quite as a hit because of that price. David, why was it a maybe?
It's a maybe because it's just not a very beautiful watch. In fact, I think you could call it sort of ugly in a way, even though that's subjective. The RM 2702 is one of my all-time favorite watches. Having had the chance to see it a couple of times, take pictures, write it up, it's one of the most amazing watches. And by that standard, this is sort of a letdown for me. The engineering, of course, should be amazing on this one as well.
Is there a 2703 and a 2704, or do we go from 2 to 5? Is this
I believe there was an 03. I remember the 03. I'm looking at it right now. There is, and there's an 04. Yes,
there are way more. There are way more than I ever realized. I feel like some of them just snuck in, and it wasn't always that they were increasingly lighter or anything. It just kind of became this whole line. But this at like 11.5 grams is by far the lightest they've done.
So Ripley, you gave it a hit, and bear in mind we were talking about Philipp Plein earlier on. Why is this a hit in relation to what could be effectively a carbon copy of a watch from earlier on in the show?
Well, and carbon, this is not just carbon. This is carbon TPT B4.
Oh,
yeah, 30% harder resin. I mean, I almost wish it was crazier colored because it's such a crazy watch from a technical standpoint, and it's pretty different as far as what they're doing. I'd love for it to be that like melted popsicle looking previous Nadal piece or something, but at the same time, this is probably more wearable than something in some flagrant hues, so I'll give them that. But I think it's just technologically impressive as far as what they're doing. And my biggest gripe with a lot of RM pieces is they're just very large and thick and bulky. It's 11.5 grams without the strap, so it's none of those things. And if you look at the photos, it also looks quite thin and small on the wrist. So I don't know if it's my favorite RM or even my favorite Nadal piece, but I like where they're going with this. And if this is kind of what is going to lay the groundwork for some of the next generation RM pieces we're going to see, then the future looks very wearable and promising.
Good stuff. Ariel, maybe, why?
Well, I think everyone here is sort of collectively at the same moment been like, ooh, that's not very pretty. Like, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. It's very cool. And if Richard Mille gave me one like the rest of us, we would gladly wear it because it also comes with a lot of cool street cred.
Just give Ripley a hat, he'll wear it. That's fine.
Yeah, hopefully it's the same weight. wearing a very lightweight watch and some of the materials that Richard Mille has not only experimented with, but really ushered in layered carbon, sapphire cases. There's a lot of areas where like they made it okay for others to do so. So if they make it okay for others to focus on really lightweight mechanical watches, I'm okay with that because I find them really, really interesting. I've long since stopped trying to understand the rationale behind the pricing, right? And I think that this is really like an art concept watch that they're making. It seems highly impractical. Whatever this crystal material is, it's going to suck compared to sapphire. So there's always all these compromises are made in the pursuit of lightness. I almost want to wait towards the Nadal legacy watch, once his career's over and they sort of sum up the best of things with new technology and focus on a pretty watch that he'll wear on a daily basis. That's almost what I want to see, where it's like the best of all the Nadals, but also made pretty. So great that they're doing this. Very satisfying to chat about this from a technical perspective, but it doesn't seem to be the top of anyone's list of Richard Mille watches they actually want to wear.
Matt?
Well, I've been caught a little bit off guard at the moment because I thought we were reviewing the Isotope Revolution Mercury. So I've come a little bit unprepared, and this is the first I'm seeing of this. But first impressions, considering the fact that it is a Rafael Nadal watch, assuming it will break down every 2 months with injuries and not perform as well as you were thinking it was going to. And other than that, I don't really have much to say about it because I know nothing about it. Ariel's covered all of it, I think, pretty much.
Instant reaction is just as valuable when seeing a watch the first time. Guy, what did you think? Or are you still reviewing the Isotope in your head?
Well, I prefer the Isotope. I'm going to play the Isotope more, to be honest. I don't... It's weird because RM is like a weird brand because it's like, hundreds of thousands to millions of pounds anyway.
Yeah.
And I think, why do you want a boring black watch? If you're going to do that, you're not going to wear it every day like most people. Like, if you're going to have something like that, like I like the smiley face ones and the ones with a bit of colour and the Usain Bolt ones that kind of, it's going to be out there. Like, what's the point of a black RM? Like, here's my understated £1 million watch that I'm just going to fly under the radar. This doesn't make any sense to me. And I get
the pigment would have made it heavier. The black is the carbon with nothing in it. Any little extra pigment would have, just saying.
I also don't really like watch. I tried on the Zenith one, the Zenith octagonal in the carbon, and I hated it because it was too light. Just I like feeling something on my wrist. I mean, that's not my reason for not buying an RM, by the way, just to be clear. But I just don't think it's like. I wish we'd reviewed the Talisman one, because that I think is kind of a proper opinion divider, because that is ridiculous. But yeah, I don't get the point of a plain black RM like Tennyson.
Let's do the Talisman next week, Rick.
Well, I was going to say, maybe in a future episode, each guest can bring a watch themselves for review and for judgment of others. So we'll maybe do that in a future episode. Will, you strike me as a man who may wear a £1 million watch and want to be understated. So this maybe is the watch for you.
Clearly, and I like to avoid the hype. So the fact that it's not brightly coloured, like a popsicle, as people said, is obviously quite attractive. To touch upon something Ariel said, which is actually quite true, is it's a disturbing trend that's crept into Formula One as well, is that the colours are going because they add weight, and so the lightest material is carbon. So let's just have completely carbon. I can see why somebody that perhaps does or does not pay tax in certain territories might want to get this because it's not a huge hype, brightly coloured Richard Mille, and technically it is quite impressive. But if you take away the design colours, don't you take away a lot of what you're wearing the RM for? Which is not to take away from the the design and the execution of it, because I understand they are exceptionally good, but you take away a lot of the look at me, which is part of why you're paying £1 million for that watch. So
in the defense of the lack of colors, it might be a constraint of the material. This is a new type of carbon TPT, and they say the resin is a different type of resin. So maybe it's the constraints of the weave and the offset is such that you're basically only going to get black from it.
But there's the strap in the hands, and there's other bits where you could put a bit of color in.
Yeah, and then you got like a largely black and red watch. I guess like the only colored bits are what those like two little rose gold giblets floating around there in the dial. You know,
good stuff. Well, go ahead, rose gold giblets. That's a good description. So go and check out that at the aBlogtoWatch website. Just to avoid disappointment, Matt, how would you have voted on the Isotope watch? Hit, miss, maybe?
Oh, hit, massive hit.
Massive hit. So there you go. Versus the maybe for this £1.1 million Richard Mille. So go and check out the Isotope review at aBlogtoWatch as well. That's it for us this week. Thank you all for listening, watching on YouTube, however you're consuming this particular podcast. And it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from all of them. Goodbye.
Bye everyone. Thank you so much for listening.
Bye bye.